Alright, so we're back assembling the FZR125 with its cut in half cylinders. Got the crankshaft and some bearings in it now, so it's all good. And just starting to work on the cylinder head. Now, with the boosted applications, turbine back pressure is really hard on the exhaust valves, and basically the turbine back pressure creates a negative offset to your spring pressure, which means that high RPM you effectively reduce your spring pressure or seat pressure on the valve so you can float them. I've done some quick measuring up on the standard springs. The springs are the same on the intake and the exhaust valve, but the cam has a bit more lift on the intake side of 6.2mm versus 5.7. So I'm going to go with a 0.7. This is a hardened washer, 0.7 shim washer, whatever you want to call it. Just machined them up out of some hardened steel and gave them a lick. 0.7mm spacer underneath the spring seat. So that's the factory spring seat there on the intakes, and I'm going to double them up and go 1.4mm on the exhaust side. That still gives me plenty of room for coil wind. I think I'm still over 2mm before I reach coil wind on the coils, and that should hopefully ensure that we don't have valves doing things that they aren't supposed to do and hitting pistons and floating around. Yeah, alright, chuck it in and see how it all fits up. Alright, so I got the motor back in the chassis now that it's all assembled. So, looking pretty good, happy with how everything's coming out. I'm just working on the plenum at the moment. So, machined up a couple of, spun some aluminium tube in the lathe to form little bell mouths onto the throttle bodies. It's all coming together. So yeah, the throttle bodies are off a Ninja 300. So they're a little bit on the big side, but it'll do. Here's all the blanking plates of where the cylinders used to be. That boss there is going to be where we drive the cam trigger off. And I've actually just left the crank full width at the moment. So it's got the two redundant webs in there just flipping around, but I've blocked off the oil galleries inside them so they won't lose oil pressure. They can just stay there for now while we learn how to tune it and potentially blow it apart. But yeah, it's all going as planned so far. And the other bit of work that I've done is I've got a shock out of a Yamaha MT-09, I think. It's quite a bit longer than stock, so that's a stock shock mounting hole there. And I didn't want to cut off the mounting hole in case I want to go back to an R6 shock, which I've heard bolts in. So I made up this bracket here, which picks up over the top of the factory mount, so it's all undoable, and keeps the swing arm linkage right in the range, which is where it's designed to work. I think I gave the rear end 10mm more ride height. Something small, but I just want something that works at the moment, and the old shock is knackered. So yeah, fun times. I just need to start getting bits and pieces that have been 3D printed, like these manifolds here are 3D printed out of plastic. So hopefully the metal 3D printed part should be here fairly soon. And then I need to get on to doing all of the flanges for the turbo kit. But yeah, pieces at a time. So one of the other parts to go on this bike is a nice big intercooler. So it's probably a bit oversized for this, but that's fine. And that is going to live somewhere around here. So the turbo kit lives basically down near the sump underneath here. And then this top tank, which is missing at the moment, will then head over to where the throttle bodies are, into the plenum there. And then the radiator mounts up above the whole lot. So where the two missing cylinders are makes perfect space for putting a big old intercooler. So I think that's going to work pretty well. So I'm happy with that.